Hello, everybody. This is Jasmina, and in this video, I'm going to talk about an entrepreneurial chart. That is a chart that many entrepreneurs have, or that indicates you have the skills to be an entrepreneur without working super, super hard. That is, your talents are in line with being an entrepreneur. Anybody can start a business. The difficult part is actually running it so that it doesn't lose money, and then also making it into a business that gives you enough money to have a good living. So, of course, my business is not successful because I keep taking classes, so I'm basically breaking even. So, but that's better than losing money. So I do consider myself to be lucky that I haven't lost money. Now, if you want to start a business, your BATSA chart can give you an idea of how easy it might be to have a successful business. It doesn't say whether or not you can start, because anybody can start, but it does help you understand whether or not you have the skills to have a successful business. And of course, this will depend on the elements that are in your chart and their relationship to your day master. I think everybody already knows this. This is all about what all of BATSA is about. Now, it can also depend on timing. And so this is where your luck pillar comes in. You may have all of the elements you need except one. And when that element, the right element comes in your luck pillar, now your chart is full. And you now have an entrepreneurial chart. And that would be the time to start the business. But of course, you need to prep before that. So what you need to be doing is looking at your luck pillar and see what's in the future and when it would be the best time to start a business. Now, sometimes it's already in the past. My very best pillar to start a business after I went through all this turns out to be when I was 3 years old, actually 2 years old. Not very useful, but I don't need to have it in the heaven stem. It can be in the hidden stem, the thing that I need, the element that I need. So that's how you're going to look when you look at your luck pillar, both at the heaven stem and the hidden stem. Now, if if that element that you need to create that missing element, and usually, well, sometimes you can get two, maybe three if you're super lucky. You could get that in one pillar, but most of the time you're only missing one, and 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 if you're that's usually the most that your luck pillar can give you is one. It there's a chance it can give you two, but it can be quite difficult. It has to be very special circumstances. So usually you're just looking for one missing element. Now, there's basically a list of stars, which I'll go over in a little bit, that are considered either to be necessary or extremely helpful to run a successful business. And that is what makes up the entrepreneurial chart. Now, a people, of course, ask about year pillars. The current year pillar, unfortunately, is too weak by itself to create the conditions that really allow you to start a successful business. And that's because unless you've run several businesses before and you know exactly where your mistakes were, uh, you it takes longer than a year to really get a business going. And so, in general, a year is not long enough. You need at least 2 or 3 years in a row before you can really get the ball rolling and really start to for a vast, vast majority of the businesses. They need a few years to really get going. But like I said, if you already have done a bunch of businesses and you know where you went wrong, maybe the current luck pillar could do, I mean, the current year pillar could do it for you. But you already have had to fail a number of times so that you know how to actually get a business started appropriately. And most people will give up if they've failed. I mean, we'll think, well, business isn't for me if you fail like 2, 3 times. That's usually how long it would take. But there are some people who keep trying, and more power to them. I do hope they finally become successful. Now, the current year pillar, however, can give you a boost. If you are already in the useful luck pillar, in that luck pillar that gives you the thing that you need. And you will have at least one year in every luck pillar where that luck pillar and the year pillar add together. At least in the heaven stem, they add together and give you more of whatever it is. Now, that is a very good year. However, do not wait till that year to start. If you are in a luck pillar that has the element that you need, start as soon as you can in that luck pillar. In fact, you should start prepping before you even reach that luck pillar, like the year or two before you reach that luck pillar, so that you're already profitable when that special year comes in. And that can make your income go up by 3 times. But if you're losing money, it might be able to save you from losing money, but um, it's not going to be the kind of success you would have if you were already making profit. So don't wait till that year to start. It's not necessary, and in fact, it's not smart. You should start as soon as you can once the luck pillar is right. Unless, of course, you happen to have the entrepreneurial chart, and then you can start at any time. Now, the biggest hurdle in general for people is having enough energy to start a business while working full time. Because most of the time you will still have to work full time when you start your business, unless you're lucky enough to inherit a big chunk of money or win the lottery or something like this. Then you could quit your job and start a business. But other than that, most people have to work full time and have a business on the side. So, yes, your life is very, very busy. And a lot of people don't have enough energy to do that. So you really need to figure out a way to have enough energy. And of course, don't quit your day job or dip into your essential savings to start a business. That's really, really stupid unless you actually have a real decent sized nest egg that you can rely on for several years and still invest in your business. So, and most people don't have that. Very, very few people do. Now, when I talk about essential savings, it has to do with this. Financial experts, for as long as I can remember, have recommended you always have 6 months of basic living expenses in cash that's in a bank account where you don't have to cash something in because if the market crashes, you lose a lot. And this is in case you lose your job, oftentimes because of downturns or something goes wrong with a company and it goes belly up and all kinds of things. Now, 6 months is the minimum. Both my husband and myself, we have PhDs in physics, and we know that that basically kills any chance to get a job outside of physics because most people are scared away. You don't even get callbacks, let alone get an interview. And and if you've ever worked in physics, as a postdoc or as a researcher, it's all there. Either you have to lie about not having a job, or they're going to find out you have a PhD. So you kind of stuck. So we both, without even discussion, decided we needed 2 years of basic living expenses, and that was the first thing we did when I finally got my degree and was able to get a job. That's the very first thing we did. We saved up 2 years of living expenses and have kept that ever since. And of course, as time goes on, you have to keep adding a bit to it because your basic living expenses go up. Food goes up, electricity goes up, rent goes up. So you have to keep adding to this as time goes on. And, at once a year, you should make sure you have enough. This is just smart finances. And if you can't do that, you probably don't have the wherewithal to run a business either, because you just don't seem to understand how important money is to run a business. Now, this of course is impossible if you're living paycheck to paycheck. And there are people who do. In fact, a lot of people who do. And that's really unfortunate. A lot of time it's because they're very low paid. So if this is your case, that you are living paycheck to paycheck, you need to spend whatever spare time you have learning a skill that will allow you to get a better job or get a promotion. You need to learn to have the right skills to earn more. Then you save up. And then, if you really are truly interested in starting a business, that's the time to start getting serious about it. Don't even think of starting a business if you aren't able to have that 6 month um, thing in always there. Now, before you start a business, you should have a solid set of base skills in whatever you want to do your business with. In fact, you should actually have more than base skills. You should actually have some decently high level skills. And you also have to understand business basics. Now, business basics are not that hard to understand. There are many books out there that can give this to you for a very cheap price. You don't have to take a class unless you learn better that way. Now, you might be able to have a successful business without these two bases if you are extremely lucky. But I get the impression that people watching my channel in general are not extremely lucky. And if you are extremely lucky, you probably have no reason to watch my channel. So it makes sense that, I don't think most of the people out there are extremely lucky, and just in general. Now, if you start a business, you need to understand, of course, business basics. And if you're going to employ anybody, you have to understand labor laws wherever you are. And if you are going to manufacture a physical object and you're going to hire people to make it, you also have to understand safety laws. Otherwise, the government can just shut you down and your business will probably fail if that happens. So you have to understand all that if, especially the safety laws, if you are creating something physical. Now, if you're creating something digital like me, and I don't have anybody employed, then I really just need the business basics. So it depends on what your job or what your business will be, what you need to know. Now, you also need to understand about the taxes and the legal forms you will be responsible for. This is part of business basics, but of course, this can change a lot faster. I mean, business basics generally don't change. The taxes, legal forms, all this stuff can change. You can um, hire other people to do these, at least the legal and taxes stuff for you, but this will increase your overhead. And one crucial thing when the business is just starting out is you have to have your overhead as low as possible because you're not going to be earning a lot of money. And if you don't have enough, you will end up not, and you'll end up losing money, you know, and and that's really hard. Even in my first year, I basically broke even. I think I had like $50 or $100 profit that year. Over the whole year, that's nothing. But at least I didn't lose any money, and so I was very happy. Now, as your business increases, you do have the money to hire people to do the things, especially the taxes and all the legal stuff that you don't want to do, that you find troublesome. And I do find this troublesome. But this gives you more time to spend making money, and then it's worth it. But in the beginning, if you can do it yourself, you're much better off because it costs you a lot less money. That is, it costs your business less money. Now, not everybody can run a successful business easily because basically they don't have the right natural skills. But most people can run a side business that will help stabilize their income during rough economic times. And that's a very, very good idea, according to all the masters that say, period 9 is going to be quite rocky. But of course, this may be part of a sales pitch, although it is clear, period 9, 9 is a fire star. So that means there will be a lot of change because fire is about change and it's also about passion. So I think it'll be a very interesting 20 years, but I'm not sure that that necessarily means that there'll be such economic disaster. Although it's the biggest challenge we face in the next actually 20 to 40 years is climate change, because we're just not doing what we need to do to prevent it from getting worse. And yes, it could be quite rocky, but we had period 9s before where we didn't have to worry about things like climate change. So this is just hopefully a temporary thing. Now, I'm speaking from actual experience. Running a business is not easy. It is a lot of work. I mean, if it's going to be successful, money rarely comes fast. Starting a business in general is not very profitable, especially in the beginning. So if you have the idea you want to run a business, start early, get your business basics down, hone the business idea. That's really important. And hone your skills in doing whatever it is you want to do for a business. And that can make your business profitable. And you need to do that before you quit your day job. Otherwise, you're going to be in real trouble. And a lot of people do get into trouble this way. But maybe you can go from full time down to half time and spend more time on your business. That's a good way if your employer is okay with that. Now, the reality is most people will make more money working for others than running their own business. So don't think that running your own business is going to solve all your problems. It isn't. It's only going to give you more problems. But if you're good at solving problems, it's maybe not so bad. But don't expect to become wealthy if you run your own business. If you have a business where you break even and don't lose money, you're already doing better than many people. Now, if you enjoy relaxing after work, that is, you need to relax so that you have enough energy to work the next day, then running your own business is not for you. You do not have enough energy to do it. uh, it just, you will basically make yourself sick. That's about it. Starting your own business basically takes over 90% of whatever free time you had before. Uh, you will still have time to eat most of the time, uh, and you will probably get less sleep than you did before. But it can be done. It is, although quite hard. Now let's really start talking about what does an entrepreneurial chart look like. Now there is a gold standard. I mean, this is what I've heard it called, and that's why I put it in quotes. And this is more from traditional teachings of what is a entrepreneur chart. The modern view can be slightly different, but most of the stuff is still there. And the more features you have, the easier it is for you to run your own business successfully. And at the end of this video, I will talk about my own chart, and I was a little surprised. Now, you need to have both indirect and direct wealth in your natal chart. That's number one. If you're missing only one, this is when you wait for the right luck pillar to come along. So this isn't an absolute killer. You just have to use timing then. You also must have output. Either either the eating god or the herding officer, doesn't matter which, either one is fine. The eating god is a little more creative, which is very helpful in a business. The herding officer is more the ability to convince people to buy your stuff, which is perhaps even more important, at least in the beginning. And this again must be in your natal chart, not in the luck pillar, but in the natal chart. And this is the one, if you meet these two requirements, this is often where things go wrong. The presence of a wealth star in the heaven or the hidden stems of your month pillar is not an absolute essential, but if you don't have this, you don't have an entrepreneur chart. It doesn't mean you can't run a business. It just means it's going to be a lot harder. And you have to have a lot more support, which is a doable thing. Now, if it's in the hidden stem, it's best if it's rooted, but it's not necessary. It's just a bit better, a bit stronger if it is rooted. And you also need to have an influence star, that is the 7K or the DO. It's best to have both. This gives you, the DO gives you the ability to be more organized, and the 7 killings gives you the energy to do what you need to do, because running a business takes quite a bit of energy. If you only have one, that's also fine. And the influence star does not have to be in the month pillar. Now, you must also have some level of RW, that's Rob Wealth. Rob Wealth allows you to feel fine helping people, and then in turn they will help you, and you have, and so it becomes like a revolving door. If you don't have RW, you tend to feel like if I give something out, I might never get anything back, and I will be quote unquote cheated. That is not a good thing. If you don't have any RW, it's not a good thing. But it also can't be too high. So the best level for RW is lower than both IW and DW. So, and if it's not, if it's in between the two, it's a little better. But if it's higher than both, then it's not good. And then the last thing is you want to have an output in the month, or if it's not in the month, it should be in the adjacent pillar, either the year or the day. And so you want it close to the month. Now remember, your month pillar is the pillar that has to do with your career, and that's why it's so important to have the DW or IW in the month pillar. And these things basically make up everything, make up what is a gold standard entrepreneurial chart. Now, resource stars are not required. I don't know if you noticed that. Neither is the friend. But the more resourceful person you are, they will make you more resourceful if you do have the resource stars, so that you're able to solve problems more easily. So you don't need so much outside help. They're very good to have, but they're not required to be an entrepreneurial chart, because you can hire people to solve some of the problems. So this is why it's not required. But really, when you start, most people don't have the money to hire a lot of people to solve their problems. So that's why the resource stars are really good to have. Not absolutely essential, but today I think it's more important than ever to be able to solve your own problems. So here is the table that tells you the rules of what these guys are, what all of your 10 gods are. Now, they're also called stars, and sometimes they're just called elements. I just want you to know that these are all different names for the same thing. We're talking about elements in your BaZi chart, and we look at the relationship between your day master and that element. So the two companion stars are the friend and the Rob Wealth. And the Rob Wealth is the same element, opposite polarity. So that is, if your day master is yang, you're looking for the yin, and vice versa. The output stars are the eating god and the hurting officer. The resource stars, which aren't really needed, but they are indirect and direct wealth. And these are the ones that create your day master. So that's why they're resources. And then you have the wealth stars. These are the element your day master controls. And the same polarity is the indirect. The opposite is the direct. And you can see that these all have D's. So these are direct. That's what these all D's stand for. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm I'm not sure, but that this is a direct officer or not. I've forgotten exactly. It is. Okay. Uh, anyway, then you have, these are the influence stars, the 7 killings and the direct officer. So this is something that you've seen before. Just want you to remember this. This will come more in handy when we're doing the shifting palaces thing, which will, I think, be the next video after this one. It's going to take a while to finish that one because it's quite complicated, but it should be out in a week or two. Now, this is again what you need. Absolutely need the direct wealth and indirect wealth. Ultimately, whether it comes from, it's best in your natal chart, then you can start a business anytime. Otherwise, if you're missing one of these, you'll have to wait for the appropriate um, pillar to come in, the appropriate luck pillar to come in to give you what you're missing. And then the next most important one is the output stars. Those are basically, these two sets are essential. You only need one of these, but you need both of these. And then the third thing, most important thing, is some sort of influence. And you need at least a bit of Rob wealth. It hopefully isn't too high, but it does give you the ability to basically network. Now, beyond the wealth and output stars, you can hire or partner with somebody for the other skills. But the wealth and the output stars are really, really key to starting your own business. You really need to have wealth in your luck pillar, I mean, in your month pillar or in your luck pillar. And of course, if it's in your month pillar, then uh, that's really great. Let's say you have an IW in your month pillar, then you're just waiting for a DW luck pillar to come along, and then you have both. Now, it is possible to have both IW and DW under very special circumstances in your month pillar. It's not easy, but it is possible, at least theoretically. I haven't actually found a chart that looks like that, but at least it's theoretically possible. Now, the output is the most powerful if it is in your month pillar, but it is useful if it's in your year or your day. It is, let's say, maybe 50, 70% as powerful as if it's in your month pillar. And having it in your hour pillar only is better than it being missing, but it's a lot weaker. It's maybe 30%, as strong as it might otherwise be. I mean, you have a lot of good ideas, but winnowing them down to the ones that actually function well or will work well, that's where the hard part lies. So it may be harder to find exactly what you need to do, and it may take a while for you to actually find the right thing. And that's because the hour is so far away from your career, your month. So when you're thinking of ideas, you're not focusing enough on your career. And it's because you're probably actually quite creative if it's in your hour. Now, very few people have a fully compliant chart. I do not. But if you're only missing a DW or an IW, you can wait for the appropriate luck pillar to arrive, and then you'll have everything you need. The others, I mean, you really need to have both the IW and DW to be able to do it. Now, if you're missing something else, you have IW and DW, and you're missing something else. A luck pillar that has the right thing can help you too. But most people, the most important thing is really the IW and DW. Without having both, you're going to have a really, really hard time starting your own business without a lot of struggle. Doesn't mean you can't start, it's just going to be harder. Now, when we look at the luck pillars, if your needed IW or DW is in the heaven stem, it's stronger, more people can see it, it's easier to become successful, but it is still quite useful if it's in the hidden stems. So either way, you look in both places. It just takes a little more work to become noticed if the DW or IW that you need is in the hidden stem rather than heaven stem. Now, as I said, my DW, which is what I need, is actually in the heaven stem was when I was 2 years old, completely useless. So that's the way it is sometimes. Now, the more things that are missing, the tougher it will be for you to create a successful business, unless you happen to be lucky with timing, people, and ideas. And that is a possibility. So don't discount this. Always be aware that you may be able to start a business at almost any point in time. Everything just has to be right unless you are in the right luck pillar or you have the right natal chart. So when I say successful, I mean a business that you can actually make a good living off of, not just break even. Although this is, if you are just breaking even, and that is you have your basic living expenses paid for, that's better. That's better than most people actually who start a business. Maybe a person who's had a business for, if they're able to go 10 years, usually they make a decent living, maybe not a good one, but they're okay. Now, there are generally two types of businesses people start, and then there's one that, under the right circumstances, you can start too, or that people do start. The biggest one, I think, is having a consulting firm that is usually doing something you do for your job, and it's usually when you are more um, you're like an engineer or a scientist um, or an accountant or somebody who has some education to be able to do what you do. And a lot of times, people who retire will start a consulting firm because they have the skills. This keeps their brain active. It allows them to um, more set their time and relax and not have to be so pressured as you would be at a 9 to 5 job. Uh, so a lot of people, when they first retire, do this. And then at some point in time, they quit. And usually when they're finally get tired of doing it. Now, the other one is to expand on a hobby or a passion. And this one is usually a lot more enjoyable for many people. Now, if you don't like your job, this is your only real way to go because a consulting firm doing more of what you don't like is usually not a good way to start a business. But hopefully you like your job or at least like enough of your job. Now, it's really quite a rarity that a good idea comes out of the blue. And that means like all of a sudden it just pops into your head and you don't know where it came from. Uh, the That can happen. And when that happens, uh, there's cautions. I mean, you got to be careful who you talk to. You've got to make sure that in a legal sense, people know this is your idea and that and you let them know, I've sent this idea off to X number of people, and if you steal the idea, I'm coming after you. That kind of thing, that is legally coming after you, so that you know that they don't steal your idea. Because usually when it's a good idea, people recognize it right away. Now, uh, if you are missing the wealth element in your month pillar, it does not mean you cannot run your own business. If you have the right elements in the rest of your chart, and again, you can just wait for the right luck pillar to come along to whatever you're missing, and it will have to have the wealth um, element there. Now, the month pillar is your career pillar. I think everybody knows that. If there's no wealth star there, your focus on money is not focused on your career. So you don't see money as a way to make more money. You usually see money as a way to either show your love or help people, usually your parents or your children who aren't in a position to help themselves. It could be your spouse. It depends on which pillar it is. Of course, the year pillar has to do with your parents and your grandparents too. The the day pillar has to do with your spouse, and the hour pillar with your children, or it could also do with your investments. And actually, you're probably going to make more money investing well than you will starting your own business. Honestly, uh, starting your own business isn't all that it's cracked up to be. Not that I'm trying to really discourage anybody, but I just don't want you to have false ideas about running a business. It's a lot of work. Now, if you have no storage branches, that is, no dragon, goat, dog, or ox in your natal chart, you may have trouble reinvesting in your business to make it grow. And you do have to reinvest in your business to make it grow. I have taken classes, including the one that tells me all about this, to be able to make my business grow. And so I am reinvesting. Now I have an ox uh, in my chart. So that, and I save money really easy. I've just been poor too long to throw money away. Now, the farther you are from having an entrepreneurial chart, the more likely it will just be a side gig that comes from a passion that you have. That is your best bet to own your own business. And that's because you probably don't have the right skill set. So, what you need is that passion to keep you going. And that passion will connect you with people with similar passions. So, when you do that, that passion is going to be what finds your customers. You don't have to advertise. You don't, you basically you just put your hobby on YouTube. Basically, that's all you would need to do. And there, YouTube doesn't cost you any money. The videos are free. Uh, but of course, it does take quite a bit of work to get to a point where you can actually start making money from YouTube. But there are people who make a lot. Um, I'm not one of them. Part of it is because I don't put any ads on my videos. But right now, I don't have enough followers, enough subscribers to actually, I think, make any money anyway, because you get a tiny, minuscule thing uh, from the ads. It's a couple decimal points before you see a non-zero number as a percentage of the advertising money. Now, this is one thing. Maybe some people might wonder about this. It doesn't matter if your day master is weak or strong. Absolutely doesn't matter. Richard Branson has a gold standard entrepreneurial chart. He has a weekday master, and it's week by season, but when you look at the Chinese Metasoft site, it says overall it's almost balanced. And actually, having an almost balanced chart is a little better because you have a broader range of skills. He does have DW in his month, and it is not rooted, but he's successful. And if you don't know who he is, just Google the name. You probably would recognize him, even if you don't know his name. And then Elon Musk, which I think everybody on the planet who's ever seen TV or been on the internet knows. He also has a weekday master. Again, it's week by season, but almost balanced as an overall chart. And he also has a DW in his month that is also not rooted. Now, both of these guys actually also, in addition to having the wealth in their month, they also have output in their month. Now, if you desire to start a business and don't know what kind of business to start, you are not ready to start a business. You don't have the passion that you need. You have to really have a real goal and know what you want to do before you start a business. Otherwise, I would be shocked if you ever make any money, especially over a couple of years. Now, your day master can give you a hint to what you may excel at, and that will be covered in another video because this one's long enough already. Now, your day master will actually help you find your talents. I don't buy this thing about, oh, what industry you should be in terms of element. I'm sorry. That maybe that worked when there were only like a handful of types of jobs to have. Your talent, whatever skills you have, can be applied to all kinds of industries these days. So you find an industry that you're interested in. And if you're equally interested, you basically use a random number generator. If there's like 10 different industries you could be in, do a random number generator. I mean, writing down 1 through 10. Alphabetical order is fine. And then just do a random number generator, which you can do for free on the web, and approach that one, or or just do the one that you first find the job in. If you don't have a real preference about the type of industry, then every industry is about equal. Now, for each day master, there's a list of branches and also pillars that can give you both a wealth and output star, or if you want to call them 10 God, it's fine. And some will even give you an influence star in a single branch or a single pillar. And if that happens to be your month pillar, you're in really, really good shape. You've got 90% of what you need for an entrepreneurial chart, if that can happen. Now, you do not need to have both a wealth star and an output star in your month pillar, but both Richard Branson and Elon Musk do have such a pillar. So I do think it helps. And that is part of the rules. It is stronger if they're together. But if they're not together, they should be side by side. That is, you still need to have the wealth star in your month pillar, but your output star can be in the year or the hidden stem of the day. It won't be your day master, because your day master is your friend. It's not going to be, it can't be a output star. So, but you could have that in the hidden stem. Now, if you don't have both the wealth and the output stars side by side or together in the month pillar, your natural ability as an entrepreneur is less strong, probably considerably so. If it's in your hour, it's better than not being there. But you often, if it's in the hour, you have a lot of great ideas, and you have a hard time picking the one that actually has the best chance for success, because they're just all ideas. And sometimes it's hard for you to see how they are practical and how to make them practical. And that's usually where the issue lies. So I'm going to start with the Wood Day Master, just because of the Jatsi. The 60 pillars always starts with the word rat. So almost always they start with the Wood Day pillar. Now, the wealth will always be earth for a Wood Day Master. The output is fire, and the influence is metal. So this is what we're looking for in your chart. So I've only given the first half of the animals. I'll give the second half in a little bit, but I've color coded it. The wealth star will always be in this green. The output stars are in the pink, and the influence stars are in the purple. At least I hope that's the way they look to everybody. I do have cataracts, and sometimes my color sense is a bit off. But you can see that the snake has everything in its hidden stem, all by itself. It doesn't really matter what the heaven stem is for your snake. You've got it all. The tiger has the two most important things. Now, your Rob Wealth and your the influence, this guy, the 7K or the direct officer, does not need to be in your month pillar. As long as you have it in your chart, you've met some of the requirements. Now, for an ox, you would have to have the output element. So what is the output for wood? It's fire. So if you had a fire ox, you would have all three. If you had a fire dragon, you would have the two most important ones. So, and for the influence is metal. If you had a metal tiger, you have all three. So this is how you can look at it. Now, you really should be concentrating on your month pillar first. Look to see if you have any of them in your month pillar. If you do, and you are a wood day master, this is only valid for wood day masters. It doesn't matter if it's a yang or a yin day master. this still works. Of course, they will have, differing on which one is IW, which one's DW, but in this case, we're just looking for the right elements, the right general elements, um, not a yin and yang version. So this is, pretty good. I mean, I hope there's some people with the snake out there who are Wood Day Masters, because you guys really have a really good chance of being able to be an entrepreneur, and a pretty good one too. Now, when it comes to the Rob Wealth, it is the same element, opposite polarity. So if you're a Yang Wood Day Master, you have the rabbit, the dragon. Well, remember, the dragon needs an output element. So if you're a fire dragon, you're good. It still needs the influence, but that can come from any pillar. You've got quite a bit of what you need here. The rabbit is, hopefully this is not necessarily in your month pillar, but if you do have the rabbit, that's great. You actually couldn't have it in your day, but it could be in your hour or your year, because a rabbit is always a yin. So you can only have a yin wood rabbit. You can't have a yang wood rabbit. That's why I say that. But you could have any one of these. The ox, the rabbit, and the snake could be yin wood, and you would then also have it that way too. But you really almost always need just one, because you don't want your Rob Wealth to be too strong. Now, if we're talking about a Yinwood Day Master, then you really only have, in this set, this first half, you only really have the tiger. And if the tiger were to be a metal tiger, you would have everything in one pillar. That's pretty impressive, although this might be awfully strong. The So this is the other half of the chart. So you can see here, the dog has everything. That's pretty impressive. So for a Wood Day Master, a snake or a dog is a really, really strong thing to have in your month pillar. Now, the goat and the horse have the two things that's needed the most, which is the wealth and the output. And so you can have the influence anywhere. You don't have to have it in the month pillar. It's okay in the month pillar. It probably gives you a little boost, but I wouldn't worry about it. If you have the monkey or the rooster, you definitely, sorry, if you have the monkey, you still need an output. So a fire monkey would work. If you have a rooster, you need the earth. You need the wealth element. And then you would also have to have a fire in either the day or the year to qualify as a pretty good chart. Now you notice the pig is kind of rather blasé. So if you have a Wood Day Master and you have a pig in your month, you're going to have a much, much harder time. You have to really rely on your luck pillar, and you probably have to rely on other friends and or family members to fill in the gaps that you don't have. I'm not saying it's not doable, it's just quite hard to do. Now, if we look at the Wood Day Master, again, we have just the goat. And so the goat has a pretty good thing, that the horse is fine. You don't need to have the Rob Wealth in the month pillar. And for the Yinwood Day Master, the pig has one of the elements that you need. So if you had a pig someplace else in your chart, that would be good. Now, this is just 3 examples. There are more in there. I've talked about that. But if you have a fire ox, you have all 3. If you have a fire dragon, you have the 2 most important ones. And a fire monkey, you have all 3. So this is how, if you have the right pillar, it's not just the animal sign, it's not just the branch, it's also the pillar that you can look at. And if this is your month pillar, any one of these, and you're a Wood Day Master, you basically have what you need. Except it will depend on whether this is direct wealth or indirect wealth. You have to have that other one someplace else in your chart, or you have to wait for the luck pillar, the right luck pillar, to come along. And so this is for when we look at the Rob Wealth. Well, at least the fire dragon has the Rob Wealth, but If you are a yin wood day master, then you either have to have a yang wood heaven stem somewhere else in the chart, and it won't be in the day, of course, or you could have a tiger or a pig elsewhere, and that would give you the yang wood that you need to have the Rob wealth. Now, I'm going to shorten this for the rest of the elements, kind of put it all into just um, two slides. But here is the elements that you need. The wealth element for fire is metal, the output is earth, and the influence is water. So we have here, you can see that an ox is a really good month stem to have if you are either of these fire day masters. The snake is awfully good too. It doesn't have the influence, but again, you do not need the influence in the month pillar. So it's pretty good. Now the dragon would need to be a metal dragon for you to have the wealth in your month pillar. And of course we're really, the first place you look is the month pillar for this. You can look at the other pillars. They won't be as strong, but you might be able to tie into it. And I'll show you some examples that do, and so it may reassure you that you'll still be okay. Now the rest of these guys, I mean, the rabbit is one of the ones that are not so great if you have a fire day master. Hopefully that's not your month, because that kind of you don't get anything from it. But that it doesn't necessarily mean a disaster. I mean, this would be a resource for a fire day master. Resources is not bad, but maybe you don't have your own business. You just work for others. That works too. In fact, it's usually the better way to go. You actually usually earn more money when you work for others. Now, this is the other half. You can see the monkey's very, very good. The rooster has the all-important wealth element, and if it has an output element such as an earth, if the earth rooster, you've got basically what you need. Dog is really good. It also has the two that you need absolutely to have the best chart. It has it there. We really don't care. I mean, it's nice that it has a possibility for Rob wealth, but you have to be a Yang fire day master. But your wealth can, I mean, your influence can come from elsewhere. It doesn't have to be in the month. And at least now the pig has something, but it's, not very strong. It would have to have a metal pig to have the wealth element in your month pillar. Now, the Earth Day Master, the wealth element is water, the output is metal, the influence is wood. So, again, the ox isn't bad. It doesn't have the influence, but that again does not need to be in the month pillar. The dragon isn't bad. It does need output, so it would have to be a metal dragon to have the two that you really need, these two that you really need in your month pillar. And the snake, it still needs the wealth output, so it needs to be a water snake. That would be fine. This rat is good in the sense it has the growth, which is the absolute important thing. Then the output, if it were a metal rat, it's pretty good. So this is how you look at it. You look at both the heaven and hidden stems. Now for the second part, the monkey is pretty good. It has the two absolutely needed ones. The pig has the growth, which is really important. So if it were a metal pig, you would have everything you need. The three things that are really important, you actually have. Now, hopefully you'll have the Rob wealth someplace else in your chart, which is totally fine. Now the rooster and the dog, they need to be water elements so that you have the growth. I mean the wealth. So this is the way you look at it. So now here the horse is kind of lonely. It's not terribly good, and the goat, at least if you were to have a water goat, you would have at least the wealth element, and that would be better than nothing. You hopefully would have the output element that is the the metal on either side of your month pillar goat, which would in this case be a water goat. To have then you would have a good chart too. Now for the metal day master, metal's wealth is wood, its output is water, and its influence is fire. So here, the dragon of the first half of the chart, the dragon is the best because it has both the output and the wealth. The rabbit isn't too bad. If it is a water rabbit, then it's the best of the rabbits. But again, you could have the water on either side. And the others, I mean, the others, well, you need the growth. You need to have these would all have to be a wood rat, wood ox, wood snake, and then you still don't have the output for the snake, but at least you would for the rat and the ox. So that's a possibility. So this is the second half. The best one in this case is finally the pig. The pig finally has a really good one. So if you have a metal day master and you have a pig in your month, you're really good. You know, you've got most of what you need. The goat needs to be a water goat again to be able to have the combination of wealth and output. And it also happens to have influence, which is really nice. So the horse has to at least have a wood horse to at least have half of it. But, you know, this is how you look at it. You do, it's just too complicated to put all the different elements, you know, the heaven stems on all of these. It would be, I don't know, 20 times longer video, and it's already long enough. And then finally, the water day master. Water's wealth is fire, its output is wood, and its influence is earth. So here, a tiger is really, really good for a water day master. And the snake isn't too bad. If it's a wood snake, it's really good. And the rabbit and the dragon would have to be fire. Fire rabbit, fire dragon to have the wealth and the output in the same pillar. And these, of course, we're looking at the month pillar first. And for the rest of it, well, the goat is quite good. It has all three. The pig, if it is a fire pig, it has what you need. And if the horse is a wood horse, you have what you need in that month pillar. So now again, you can look at the other pillars, but the month pillar is the first place you need to look. So that ends this series of slides. Now, just to show you, you don't need it. Jack Ma has no wealth, no output, nor does he have any influence stars in his month pillar. What he has is RW and DR, and he really is a resource person. I mean, that his primary or his main profile, if you're using Joey App's terminology, is a resource, and I think it is direct resources. Now, we don't have a birth hour for Jack Ma, so he might have some other wealth, like even the IW, in his hour, but we don't know that. Now, what he does have is 7K, HO, and DW in other pillars. And he started Alibaba when he was in his indirect wealth luck pillar. And he did start with a bunch of friends and a limited budget, and I don't think he could have succeeded without everybody coming together. But he's one of these guys who kind of got lucky. He came to America at the right time. He saw Amazon when it was not not as big as it is now, but it was definitely growing. And he saw that the companies in China weren't providing a similar type of opportunity to people. They would, you know, if you were going to get anything from them, you had to have huge orders, things like this. He saw that there was a niche here, and that's the niche he filled. So he was in the right place at the right time, And then when he went back home, he had the right friends. So this is an example of being in the right place, the right time, and having the right people. And this is possible. You know, it's certainly not impossible. Now, Jack Ma was born between the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution in China. And that was not a great time in terms of, let's say, good governance. Uh, I think a lot of people were born at home. He probably has no idea when he was born. If his, even his mother might not know. And I would assume his mother is no longer with us, but, because he's no longer young. But I don't know. But anyway, he doesn't know what time he's born, I'm pretty sure. Now, but you can just look through all the possible hours that he could be born. That is, the hour in quotes, the 2 hour window. And he's either a chief or a tortoise. That's his guardian spirit. I'm fairly certain it's the chief. He saw a vision and he could make it come true because that's what chief can do. And the majority of the day is the chief also. So there's a good chance he has the chief. Now, I don't think he would have succeeded without the help of his friends and colleagues and maybe some investors because he clearly didn't have the money himself. He was a teacher um, before he started Alibaba. So, he didn't have the money, obviously, but he probably also relied on these others of his friends to, with some of their natural skills. And so, because he's high in resources, he's able to watch them and he can pick up those skills pretty easily because he has a high level of resources, which allows you to learn fast. So after a while, I think he probably bought them out. I mean, I don't know the real history, but uh, he could learn fast enough that he could take over the parts of the business he didn't understand first because he just came back to China and said, I need to start this business because there's a niche here and I can fill it. But he did need his friends. And that's a perfectly good way, a very smart way for a resource person to use. They use other people's skills. They usually learn very quickly, and so they can then buy out their friends, and their friends probably have other things they want to do anyway, and then they can get more of the income, more of the profit from the business. So it's a very smart way for a resource person to use. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to having partners, but sometimes it's very helpful. Now, oftentimes this will be a friend or a family member. At all, definitely, you must have trust between these people, whether it's one person, I mean, whether it's two persons or more than two people. Everybody has to trust each other. If they don't, the working relationship doesn't normally work. Now, this can allow you to have a good mix of skills from different partners, and this can make the business run much better and much more efficiently. And efficiency is a big, important part of running a business. You have to be efficient. The less efficient you are, the less money you make. It's that simple. Now, the problem is when you have partners, if the business fails, and you start blaming each other, you typically lose a friend, and it can cause a rift in your broader family. Even you may never speak to that person again, um, even if they are a family member. You almost certainly won't if they were a friend, uh, because you'll go your own separate ways. So that is the downside, the disadvantage of having a partner. If the business doesn't work, you lose a friend, at least most of the time. Anyway, but if you don't have the skills, that is, you don't have the stars, this may be your only path to having a successful business because you may just not. I mean, it's kind of a waste of time to focus on something you're not naturally good at when you could partner with somebody and have that skill come in. And if the luck pillar that you need isn't coming within the next 5 years, especially in this period 9 where things are going to change so fast, you might consider then having a partner. But maybe it's not. It's really hard to say. It might not be the right time for you to start a business. Uh, and maybe you really do need to wait for those 5 years because you may find a new passion or a new something may come in that 5 years. And that is when you really should do it because you'll have some affinity to it. So it's really hard to say this, whether or not you should have a partner. It has to be someone you really, really trust. And it has to be someone that you get along with well if you want to have a pleasant or a good partnership. Now, some people love to fight, and that could work too, but it tends to be much more stressful. Now, the reality is most people will make more money working for others than they will running their own business. But most people who start businesses kind of don't have another option. Um, my PhD in physics and the fact I haven't worked for a while because of injury on either for me or my husband, uh, that I haven't worked for a while, and so it's very hard for me to get a job. So really, starting my own business was my only option. I mean, I did work for a while in a fabric store, but that company went out of business, and so you know, and it was okay. It was an okay job, but it's like I couldn't find it in another store, so I just gave up. Now, the only thing I'm missing in my chart, and here's where I promised to talk to you about my chart. I am missing DW. I have zero DW in my chart. So I fail criteria number 1. However, since this is the only thing I'm missing, I just have to wait for a DW to come along in my luck pillar. I hope that's clear. I hope you already figured that out before I said it. Now, the other problem is my RW is higher than my DW because my DW is 0. And so, but my RW is less than my IW. So I'm kind of halfway, but I really do fail criteria number 5. But maybe when the luck pillar comes in, it may qualify and I might be okay with number 5. And that luck pillar will also make me okay with number 1. So I'm close. I'm very close. Now, I think I said this earlier. My my luck pillar that had DW in the heaven stem, which is the strongest one, is when I was 2 years old, which of course is completely useless because nobody starts a business when they're 2. I didn't even talk yet when I was 2. But this is what my month and my year look like. I've shown you my whole thing before, but I am a Yinwood Daymaster. I have everything because I have the fire ox, I have the output, I have the wealth, and I have the influence in my month pillar all the time. Now, this is the indirect wealth. In fact, I have 3 indirect wealths in my chart. So I have a lot of indirect wealth and 0 direct wealth. And in my year, I have the, um, I'm sorry, I have this that will give me my Rob wealth, and I think this is the only Rob wealth I have, uh, and uh, and I also have resources. So I have basically what I need with just these 2 pillars. As long as I wait for the direct wealth to come in through my luck pillar. Now again, remember you don't have to be in the heaven stem to use the luck pillars energies. It just takes more work if it's in the hidden stem. So all I need now is the DW. I mean, I'm in really good shape otherwise. So my current luck pillar has the DW. And I didn't know any of this until I took this class. And it's really surprising that I chose to start my business when I did. Maybe it was, maybe I had to, maybe it was just meant to be. But I learned feng shui for myself starting over 20 years ago. There was very little information in English back then, but I learned what I could. And then later I took a couple classes. And I never thought it would be a business because where I live, people aren't interested, in the city I live in, even the state I live in, people are not interested in feng shui in general. There are a few like me, but not very many. And I didn't want to fly all over to, to deal with this. I don't enjoy flying. I do enjoy traveling to new places. I hate flying. Um, but when I want to fly somewhere, I want to be able to relax and have a vacation, not do business. But I've done more business travel than I think than vacation travel, at least in flying. Now, when COVID started, I was actually taking a class at a local community college. And when it went to Zoom, I knew at that point I could run a business. I knew I had the missing piece for me to actually be able to run a business because I wasn't going to fly all over. It just wasn't worth it. And so when that happened, I started creating the charts. Now, I did my own charts for the house we live in, and then also some charts for other houses that are, good directions and so forth for me. And also my husband, we happen to share the same QA number. And so I did those before, but now I completed it. I looked at all the things. I also did all the purple white charts that are possible because I knew how many there would be. And it was easier to do it by hand than to do it trying to do a program. Uh, so, uh, so I did all that. I prepped myself so that I would be ready to deal with anybody's house or anybody's residence when I opened the business. I mean, I knew I was going to start one. It was just a matter of time. I was also building a house at the time, uh, but we did stop at a certain point in 2020, or kind of late 2020, um, because we got to a point where we needed outside help and it was hard to get people. And we also were very nervous about being around a bunch of strangers because both my nephew and I have asthma. And so, and my husband is over 65. So it was just like not worth the risk. And of course, it lasted a lot longer than we thought it would. But, that's life. But anyway, I was basically prepped, and then unfortunately, my nephew was killed by a drunk driver who has recently been sentenced to 28 years in prison. So uh, we're all relieved that he's not going to be on the road killing somebody else. But anyway, basically everything came to a halt in the building the house. And so then, because I'm not strong enough physically to do it myself, so then I said, okay, let me start a business. Maybe I can earn enough to be able to hire someone to finish the house. Well, that hasn't happened yet, but we do have some savings we'll be using. But I was ready to open. I knew what kind of business I wanted to run. So basically, for me, where I live, I had some options. One, I could be a sole proprietor, um, or I could be an LLC. There is a corporation, but an individual doesn't usually do a corporation, and it was ridiculous. The paperwork is outrageous. So I decided to go with the LLC. It was the easiest of the three without having to do a trust to separate my private and my husband's wealth from the business wealth, or the business, well, can't say business wealth, I really don't have that, but whatever money the business would have. But everything was in place to open in the spring of 2022, which is when I started my YouTube channel. I registered my business. After I had some money coming in, I started a bank account, a separate bank account just for the business. So everything would be clear, there wasn't all that mixing. And until this class, I had no idea that 2022 was the right time to start. My current luck pillar started in January of 2022. And Uh, and I started, I think, in March, April-ish, before summertime anyway. This is when I started the business, started the YouTube channel, everything. And it's just the right timing. I didn't even know this. And I'm a little surprised, but it actually has worked. And so again, look at your luck pillar. If the only thing you're missing is one of the wells, look at your luck pillar and look at both the heaven and the hidden stems. And I will show the next video. I'm going to talk about what they call shifting palaces. There's a couple of different ones, but I'm going to show the one that's relevant to here. And uh, there, I will give you a different example of a chart that has the same kind of situation. Although in this case, I think the person needs indirect wealth. It's a random person. I don't know who it is. I mean, somebody has that birthday, but I just randomly picked something. So that will be more helpful, I think, for you in the long run. So that's it. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. I know this was a long one. Hopefully, it will be very helpful to you. And and again, it's okay if you don't run a business. Running a business is not for everybody. It is really hard work. But if you've got the energy, I say, and you've got a good idea and a good plan, you can go for it. Thanks again.